Y'all know, man, it was only a matter of time before Sheryl Swoopes said something and the fans were going to be all over her.
Sheryl Swoopes is back, and she's not holding anything back. The WNBA legend just took a blowtorch to the Indiana Fever, and Caitlin Clark is caught in the crossfire.
Come out here and just hate for the sake of hating.
Yeah.
If you don't, just shut Sheryl Swoopes. How about that? Caitlin Clark is nice. Like, what are you doing? And so, you know, she's probably going to go #1 to the Indiana Fever, and that's dope to me.
2 rookies cut, gone before the season even starts. But instead of blaming the front office, Swoopes turned her sights on the Fever's rising star and the coach who dared to build around her. Her words, brutal accusations of favoritism, a full-on takedown of Fever head coach Stephanie White.
What other white girls can I tune up from the Indiana Fever? Yeah, here we are. My goodness, I mean, we've had 2 preseason games. 2! And we're back to it. We're back here. She's criticizing Stephanie White. I bet Sheryl Swoopes hates that last name.
And a scathing suggestion that Clark's teammates, yes, the white ones, got a free pass while black rookies were shown the door. This isn't just a roster controversy. It's a full-blown war of words between the old guard and the new face of the league. And Swoopes made it very clear she's not done. So why is a Hall of Famer launching verbal missiles at a rookie-led team? Is this just jealousy or something deeper? What happens next could shake the entire WNBA.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Clark, guard for the Indiana Fever.
Gets bumped, will take, and hit from 3.
The Indiana Fever made one of the boldest preseason moves we've seen in years. Not 1, but 2 promising rookies, Bree Hall and Yvonne Ejim, were cut before they ever had a real shot to prove themselves. These weren't just any players. Hall was a 2-time NCAA champion with South Carolina. Ejim, Gonzaga's all-time leading scorer. On paper, this looked like a cold business decision. The Fever had salary cap issues, roster limits, and tough calls to make. But the second the news broke, Sheryl Swoopes exploded. Swoopes didn't just question the decision, she lit up the entire Fever organization, and her target wasn't just the front office.
Sheryl Swoopes, back in the news, getting pushback from fans, calling out Lexi Hull, Sophie Cunningham, calling out Stephanie White. Oh, I don't know about coaching decisions, blah, 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 blah.
She went after head coach Stephanie White, the veteran players, and Caitlin Clark. Why?
But to me, when I think about preseason, it really isn't so much for your players that you know are returning, the players that you know are going to make the team, but it's more about, I'm not sure about this particular player. Let me get her in a real life game situation and see how she handles that. But I'm also going to probably play her a few minutes with my starters, right? To see how that looks, how that works.
Because to Swoopes, this wasn't just about talent. It was about who gets a chance to succeed and who gets cut before even stepping onto the floor.
Okay, example, the Washington Mystics Indiana Fever game. Because I know on social media, people were like, well, why aren't the starters in for the Mystics? They could win this game. And I was there, right? Because preseason is about, yes, you're going to play your starters, you're going to play your players. Typically, they don't even play that many minutes, right? Because you have so many players on your roster that you got to make roster cuts. So you're still trying to figure out who can fit what we're doing.
She asked a question that hit hard. If you're trying to figure out who makes the team, why wasn't Bree Hall playing more in preseason? Why give limited minutes to a black rookie while players like Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull, both white veterans, got valuable floor time?
I know. But I did have a question though with Indiana, right? Because even though the starters weren't in, like Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull they've been in the league for a while. You actually had players who like Bree Hall. Why wasn't she in that game per se? If you're still trying to figure out who's going to make the team, who you're going to cut. So I was a little confused with what Steph was doing, but anyway, it is what it is.
Swoopes wasn't subtle. She accused the Fever of protecting certain players, not based on performance, but based on something else.
This is gonna be a spicy season, cause Kiki was like, "What, Sophie? Girl, don't come over here." Sophie was like,
already,
I was
game
here
one.
Here for it. But the fact that's a rookie, right?
I know.
Kiki,
She did not back down.
But she just turned and laughed. She was like, "What? What did you say? What are we doing?"
And just like that, race, favoritism, and power were thrown into the center of the WNBA's biggest preseason storyline.
Because you got to wonder if there's not something else that's motivating said comments. All right, just especially when you're talking about two young blonde-headed ladies on a basketball team, and you have a black player that just got cut, and Sheryl Swoopes is not happy about that.
Therefore, this wasn't just a personnel move. It became a lightning rod for a deeper conversation. Was this simply a team shaping its roster, or was it something uglier? Swoopes even threw sarcasm into the mix, mocking how she was told to stop criticizing Clark, only to now focus on the other white girls on the team.
What do you have to say for yourself? Let's hear you.
I know.
But I did have a question though with Indiana, right? Because even though the starters weren't in, like Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull they've been in the league for a while. You actually had players who, like Bree Hall. Why wasn't she in that game per se? If you're still trying to figure out who's going to make the team, who you're going to cut. So I was a little confused with what Steph was doing, but anyway, it is what it is.
You were a little confused.
That line, it wasn't just shady, it was a direct hit at what she sees as a double standard. But here's the twist. The Fever had little choice. Due to salary cap constraints, they could only carry 11 players.
They did it. I don't see anything really wrong with it. And then on top of that, I mean, we see who got cut. The two players that did not play at all in this game, Jillian and Bree. Neither one of them played in this game and got cut. Now, granted, she could have been thinking about the minutes. Sophie had 34 and Lexi had 32. So maybe she's thinking about the minutes. But honestly, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean,
10 of those were basically locked in with guaranteed contracts. The only players who could realistically be cut were those on rookie deals. That meant Hall, Ejim, or Michaela Timpson. And of those three, Timpson had the edge. She was a defensive beast in camp and filled a bigger team need. Therefore, Hall and Ejim were the casualties.
The Indiana Fever having to make some cuts, and those cuts are happening right now as we speak. I think this probably was two players that many expected to be possibly gone, because I will say this, it's clear, I believe one of these new players will make this team. That's Michaela Timpson. My goodness, she looks like she has something, folks. She does. And I'm excited that she's part of the team.
Not because they lacked talent, but because they were in the wrong situation at the wrong time. But that didn't stop Swoopes from pouring fuel on the fire. She questioned everything from playing time to rotations to the Fever's long-term vision. And in doing so, she painted a picture of a team protecting its inner circle while keeping everyone else on the outside. The fans divided.
So, as expected, we've heard the old Sheryl Swoopes. We've heard the old Sheryl Swoopes talking about preseason, and obviously Caitlin Clark's a picture here because I'm not showing, we're just going to listen to it, but as expected, never anything positive with the Fever. Never anything positive. In fairness, actually, no, she did say the Fever have a chance of winning, but again, when she's talking about preseason in general, there's something about the Fever.
Some stood with Swoopes, calling out what they saw as systemic bias. Others defended Clark and the Fever, pointing to the brutal realities of professional sports. And in the middle of it all, Caitlin Clark, who didn't make the cuts, didn't manage the rotations, and didn't even speak on the situation, is once again the face of the storm.
A lot of people slamming the former general manager for getting this roster a little jacked up right now. So that's interesting. Fever fans expecting Bree Hall, role player at South Carolina, to beat out Sydney Colston for the roster spot were being a bit fanciful.
Because in today's WNBA, every move the Fever makes gets tied back to Clark, whether she likes it or not. And that's exactly what's turning this team's preseason into a pressure cooker.
Well, I understand that, but Colson, if you look at her, if you look at her numbers from last year, and I understand she's a valuable veteran, but yeah, I could see how some fans might think that was at least a mild possibility. That is so awesome. Another South Carolina player out of the WNBA. That's not great.
Let's be real. Sheryl Swoopes didn't just drop a hot take. She launched a full-blown war on the Indiana Fever's culture. But underneath all the heat, there's a much bigger problem unfolding. Caitlin Clark has become the lightning rod for everything. Even when she's not involved in a decision, her name gets pulled into the headlines. She didn't cut Bree Hall. She didn't waive Yvonne Ejim. She didn't hand Sophie Cunningham extra minutes. But when you're the face of a franchise, when you're the one selling out arenas, you're guilty by association. That's the weight Clark now carries. Therefore, every cut, every contract, every coaching choice, it all loops back to her. And for some people, especially old school legends like Swoopes, that's hard to swallow.
Sheryl Swoopes is among the dumbest people ever and one of the most talented ever. Really, if you look at Sheryl Swoopes' basketball history, she certainly should be considered greats, but all that goes away when you're inherently stupid.
The WNBA is changing fast. It's younger, it's flashier, and it's more polarizing than ever. Players like Clark represent the new wave, media-savvy, fan-driven, and able to flip entire franchises overnight. But players like Swoopes, they built the foundation. They fought for the league before the cameras ever showed up. That tension, it's real, and it's growing louder by the day. But here's the twist that nobody expected. Sophie Cunningham isn't backing down. When Swoopes questioned why Sophie was getting minutes over rookies like Hall, the Fever vet didn't respond with a press release or a passive quote. She laughed, she smirked, and she made it very clear she heard the criticism and didn't care. Then she went out on the court and proved exactly why she belongs. In the Fever's exhibition against Brazil, Cunningham played with fire. She didn't just hustle, she owned the moment. Defense, communication, leadership, everything a veteran is supposed to bring, she brought in full force. Therefore, it's no surprise that the Fever are sticking by her. Chemistry matters. And in a season where every headline is a distraction, you need players who can handle the chaos, not add to it. But the problem isn't just on the court anymore. It's in the media, on social platforms, in comment sections. Fans are choosing sides. Some support Clark and the Fever's vision. Others believe Swoopes is right, that something deeper is going on behind closed doors. And that's exactly what makes this story so explosive. Because no matter where you stand, the truth is clear. This isn't over. Swoopes made it clear she's not letting this go. Every time the Fever make a roster decision, she's watching. Every time Clark's name trends, she'll be ready to speak up. And every time a veteran like Cunningham outshines a younger, less protected player, there's going to be fallout. The preseason was supposed to be quiet, a time for teams to gel, build chemistry, and prepare for the real battles ahead. But for Indiana, that battle has already begun. On the court, they're loaded. Off the court, they're a walking headline. So now the question becomes, can this team survive the spotlight? Can they block out the noise, the drama, the whispers, and just play basketball? Or will the pressure rip them apart before the season even begins?
No, but players who will be free agents next year. There's a lot of other going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Sheryl Swoopes said no one wants to play in Indiana. She said veterans avoid the Fever, that Kelsey Mitchell felt unappreciated, that Caitlin Clark couldn't carry a franchise. But what just happened in training camp completely destroys that narrative. Kelsey Mitchell didn't just respond, she dismantled everything Swoopes claimed, with receipts. In a bold new interview, Mitchell exposed the truth. Veterans are lining up to join Indiana. The culture is stronger than ever. And yes, Caitlin Clark is part of the reason why. The chemistry, off the charts. The energy, different. The trust, real. And what Mitchell revealed about her relationship with Clark will have Swoopes backtracking fast. This isn't just a response, it's a reputation collapse. Because when you see how united this team really is, you'll realize the WNBA's biggest critic just became its most misinformed voice. And the Fever, they just became the league's most dangerous team. When Sheryl Swoopes went on her podcast and said players didn't want to be in Indiana, it sent a shockwave through the WNBA world.
There's a lot of other shit going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Over there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some new shit going on around there.
It's a lot. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
She didn't just imply tension, she named names. According to Swoopes, even Kelsey Mitchell was unhappy. But now, that entire claim has blown up in her face.
So here's where I think they did do a very good job, and that was with Kelsey Mitchell, who's an unrestricted free agent, because Kelsey Mitchell had a hell of a season this season. And I don't think she got the credit that she deserved.
Kelsey Mitchell didn't stay silent. She sat down for her first major interview since training camp opened. And she was glowing. Not defensive, not careful, just brutally honest and proud. She described the new atmosphere as fresh, comparing it to pulling warm clothes straight out of the dryer.
For us, with the new atmosphere, new coaching, everything is just absolutely new. It feels really good. It feels fresh. It's kind of like when you take your clothes out the dryer, kind of like fresh. It just feels different, and it feels good because we have new leadership, we got new players, we got vet leadership, and so I think all that combined just makes for a good atmosphere right now. It feels good.
That doesn't sound like someone unhappy. That sounds like someone relieved. And her message was simple. This team is different now. She didn't sugarcoat last year. She admitted it didn't feel right. The energy was off. The culture wasn't clicking. But this year, it's already better.
It makes it easier. I remember this time last year, it didn't feel good. So we had to get that in order first, in order for people to start playing well. It's like a domino effect. But I think once your culture is kind of established, how you guys see it now, I think it makes everything else way easier. I don't know if that makes sense, but way easier. It makes sense.
The coaching, the leadership, the vibe, all of it has changed. Mitchell emphasized how players feel wanted, valued, and motivated. That alone directly contradicts Swoopes' claim that no one wants to play in Indiana. In fact, Mitchell went a step further. She said, everyone wants to be here. She said it clearly. She said it with confidence. And she made it clear this wasn't just lip service.
I think the best part right now is everyone wants to be here. You know, it's really downplayed. It sounds cliche, but it's nothing like being where you want it and everybody feels valued in order to go have a good training camp, have a good preseason, so you can have a good first game when the season starts. But I think right now it's just that good feeling of everybody feel like, hey, I want to be here and I want to compete. So I think that's the first step.
This wasn't a player saying what PR told her to say. This was an experienced veteran choosing to double down on her commitment to the franchise. Swoopes also tried to paint the Fever as a team without direction, but Mitchell couldn't stop talking about how different it feels now that Coach Stephanie White has taken over. She highlighted how players are being treated like individuals, not pieces on a board, and that new leadership is exactly what they needed.
I have nothing but great things to say about Stephanie. From the time I was in China playing and her trying to get me back here, and the leadership that she took to make sure I felt welcome and felt safe coming back and playing under her. She's done an unbelievable job with all of us one by one and making sure we all feel different but in a good way. And I think with her leadership along with the assistant coaches, we've already cultivated how we want to play, and so that already feels good as a player coming from Stephanie.
It's also telling that Mitchell, an unrestricted free agent, chose to return to Indiana this offseason. She had every opportunity to leave. She didn't. Instead, she re-signed with a team that, according to Swoopes, no one wanted to touch. That decision says more than any podcast clip ever could. So why does this matter? Because Kelsey Mitchell isn't just another player. She's the heartbeat of the Fever. And if she believes in the new direction, it sends a message, not just to fans, but to the rest of the league. Therefore, when Swoopes tried to paint a picture of dysfunction, Mitchell's interview didn't just refute it, it buried it. When Sheryl Swoopes questioned whether veterans like Kelsey Mitchell could coexist with a media magnet like Caitlin Clark, she was playing into an old narrative. The rookie star comes in, and the vets roll their eyes. But that assumption just got torched. Kelsey Mitchell didn't just tolerate Caitlin Clark, she celebrated her. In the same interview where she tore down Swoopes' narrative, Mitchell lit up when asked about Clark.
It actually doesn't feel different. From the moment I met Caitlin and the moment she met me, like I said, when you respect your teammates and respect as competitors, it makes for a better relationship, it makes for a better dynamic, and I think that me and C-Square established that 2 years ago now. So I think everything with us is gonna always be kosher and really put together because we've already established who we were as people and as players and how we can help make each other better. So it feels good to me already.
There was no hesitation, no passive-aggressive remarks, just mutual respect and honest praise. She called Caitlin's strength underrated. She broke down Clark's skip passes, her ability to change angles mid-play, her timing. Mitchell didn't talk like someone watching a rookie. She talked like someone learning from a peer. Mitchell said it plainly. Caitlin makes her better.
I think their strength, for one, is always, from a physical standpoint, her strength and her ability to now make plays that people don't think about. Whether it's that skip to skip, I mean, you know, a person of her caliber, it seems small, but it's going to make her go from having 25 to having 28, or 10 assists to 12 assists. So, for one, her strength, and then after that, professional, learning, you know, watching film, you know, knowing what you need, and I think that's going to take time for her specifically, but the rest is for her is already in the bag. I think strength is always going to be a main thing for her.
This is coming from a veteran who's averaged nearly 20 points per game for years, and she's openly praising the basketball IQ of someone in just her second season. And it wasn't just compliments, it was clarity.
Oh, girl, C squared. She's keep, you know. I think she does a really great job of, like, you know, I think Caitlin specifically is a household name, and I think that she's going to continue to, you know, bring in the arena and kind of like put us in a position to have all the fans in the world. So, I mean, I obviously hats off to her, but, you know, I give her grace because it's a lot to take on. I think she's done a really good job with it.
Mitchell explained how their styles complement each other. Clark's court vision opens driving lanes. Her range stretches the defense. Her presence makes life easier for scorers like Mitchell because now defenders can't load up on one threat. But what made this moment hit hardest was what Mitchell revealed about their personal relationship. "We built our chemistry 2 years ago," Mitchell said.
And C-Square established that 2 years ago now. So I think everything with us is going to always be kosher and really put together because we've already established who we were as people and as players and how we can help make each other better. So it feels good to me already.
That's right. Before Clark ever played a WNBA minute, she and Mitchell had already connected through mutual respect, competition, and conversation.
Up-tempo, fast. Obviously, you know how me, C-Square, those guys are. But I think when we cultivate DB and your older ones in it, I think we're going to have more of a winning culture and not just playing fast. So now we get the best of both worlds. Culture. And I think once you establish the respect in the room, the environment is always is value with that. I think those days that are tough that you do have to give your grace for, it's respect behind it. We don't expect perfection right now, but we do expect discipline and we expect hard work. So if we could cultivate that and then give ourselves some grace when it's time to go win games, I think we will.
That off-court bond is now becoming their on-court weapon. They talk, they teach, they challenge each other, and they do it without ego. Mitchell was crystal clear about this. No one is trying to be the alpha. Everyone is trying to listen, lead, and build something that lasts.
So I think that mix of leadership that we have from your DBs, so Tosh Howard and Sid, it's going to help ease things out based on the people that's coming around to see us. But I also think that it do help us. Let me say this. Before we got here a month ago, we were all coming in. We come from our respective homes to establish that already. And so I think that 5, we've established that like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It might have been open run, it might have just working out, but we've already kickstarted how we want to play in here so we can do it here.
And if you're still clinging to the idea that Clark's stardom is creating resentment, this interview should end that myth forever. Therefore, when Mitchell, the very player Swoopes accused of being unhappy, goes out of her way to uplift Caitlin Clark as a teammate, it doesn't just prove they're aligned. It proves Swoopes couldn't have been more wrong.
WNBA MVPs in your career, would you consider each of those 3 seasons as dominant seasons for yourself?
No.
second, bro. Sheryl Swoopes is willing to lie about her own career before she even admits that Caitlin is dominant.
And when a veteran like Mitchell welcomes a rising star like Clark with open arms and calls it fun, competitive, and refreshing, it tells you one thing. This locker room isn't divided, it's unified, and it's dangerous. Sheryl Swoopes claimed no one wanted to play in Indiana. She said the culture was broken, that stars were uneasy, that veterans stayed away.
No, but players who will be free agents next year, there's a lot of other going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
But everything we've seen and everything we've heard says the opposite. Kelsey Mitchell stayed, DeWanna Bonner signed, Natasha Howard joined, Sydney Colson brought championship DNA, and Brianna Turner, who many thought would clash with Caitlin Clark, is instead running flawless sets with her and embracing the challenge. These women aren't avoiding the fever, they're flocking to it. Why? Because for the first time in years, Indiana isn't just rebuilding, it's believing. And that belief is centered around three people: Kelsey Mitchell, Caitlin Clark, and coach Stephanie White.
Well, I think the biggest benefit, obviously there's the aspect of having a new coach and a lot of new teammates. So in that regard, it's still a learning process and trying to figure your teammates out and figure out the new system. But the pace and the physicality and all of that, you're used to it, you're ready for it, you're ready for at the speed of how things are going to move. I think that having that under your belt is kind of what's helped me the most here. But at the same time, it's a learning process for all of us. There's most of the team here and most of the girls here are new players. So and the ones that have come back, new coach, we're just trying to learn in the same way and build relationships with our teammates. So similar in that regard, but at the same time, having a year under my belt is really helpful.
Mitchell is no longer carrying the franchise alone. She's playing freely, leading confidently, and mentoring without pressure. Clark isn't walking in with ego. She's walking in with vision, and it's contagious.
That was my biggest focus in the off season, is just trying to get stronger and really working on that. And really thankful for Sarah, our strength and conditioning coach, put in a lot of time with me, and we were in here consistently. I think that was the biggest thing for myself, is just having that consistency to be able to work on it for 6 months or whatever it was. So I certainly feel a lot stronger, and I'm a pretty self-aware person. I knew that was going to be a huge part of it, and it's going to help me offensively, it's going to help me defensively, it's going to help me not get as tired throughout games. So yeah, definitely one of the focus points of my off season is just getting stronger, and even through these 2 practices, I can certainly feel it.
Coach White, she's giving this team its identity, built on accountability, versatility, and culture. Not hype, not marketing, just results. And maybe that's what's most threatening to someone like Sheryl Swoopes. Because if this Fever team really is for real, if Mitchell and Clark really are aligned, it means the WNBA isn't just changing. It means it's evolving without permission from the old guard. Swoopes tried to frame Clark's rise as a media stunt.
When everybody else, they're quick to throw stats, right? It's oh, well, this is what she did. Somebody's oh, Sheryl Swoopes only scored 34 points in the WNBA. Caitlin scored 35. So you can't use stats when it benefits you.
She tried to question the respect inside the locker room. She tried to divide the team with outdated narratives. But she missed the most important part. This isn't about attention. This is about alignment. Mitchell and Clark trust each other. That trust is growing into chemistry. That chemistry is turning into momentum. And that momentum, it's starting to look like a problem for every other team in the league. So now the question becomes, what happens when the most criticized rookie and the most underrated vet finally get the backing they deserve? What happens when your biggest critics turn out to be your greatest motivators? And what happens when a team the media dismissed, the one Sheryl Swoopes said players were running from, becomes the one everyone else is running toward? Because if Mitchell, Clark, and the Fever were supposed to fall apart under pressure, why do they look more unified than ever? That's not just a redemption arc. That's a revolution.